Security front, it looks like here, my friends. The Fool.com is reporting that there could be a pretty substantial cost of living adjustment for 2019 for Social Security beneficiaries. That's good news because if you remember what we talked about 2 days ago, I think, where I said the dollar of Social Security from 2000 to today hasn't kept up with inflation. In fact, the purchasing power of a dollar of Social Security from 2000 will only give you 66 cents today. That's a decline in purchasing power, which means the COLAs, cost of living adjustments, have not kept up with the real world cost to you in retirement. That's not good. So welcome to Heritage Wealth Planning, folks, the place where you come to learn all you can about Social Security, financial planning, Medicare, you name it. We talk about it here at Heritage Wealth Planning, investments, Roth IRAs. So I appreciate you coming on board. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit that little button right down there to subscribe. And then when you do, hit the notification bell to be notified for future content. Because we're doing at least a video a day now. So you want to be kept in the loop. So let's dive right into this. If you're not familiar with the Fool, his name's Dave and I can't remember. But anyway, the guy, I forgot the names from the Fool, Motley Fool. They do a pretty good stuff on the website at Fool.com. And I'm a big fan of the work they do for the most part. I mean, they have some issues where they're trying to sell you stuff. I get that, but they have a lot of good content. And here's one that came out that I just read from just the other day. The great news on Social Security's 2019 COLA. When discussing America's most important social programs, Social Security is arguably at the top of the list. It's true. Social Security and Medicare. That's it. Once you hit 65, or 62 for Social Security, you are thinking, actually, once you hit 60, frankly, you're really thinking about Social Security and your Medicare. Those two things go hand in hand. So you really need to have a nice understanding of it. Unfortunately, many people do not. Aside from the fact that 62.5 million people are receiving a Social Security check each month, more than 3 out of 5 retired workers are relying on the program to provide at least half their monthly income. All right, so I just got to reiterate that. 62.5 million people are receiving a benefit each month, and more than 3 out of 5 retired workers are using Social Security to provide at least half their income. So before I go to the COLA, think about that. What's the likelihood, my friends, that Social Security is going to be cut when 62.5 million potential voters are on it? Do you really think there's a politician out there, whoever it is, I don't care, is going to say, we're going to stick it to those 62.5 million people and reduce their benefits? It's insanity on steroids to think of that. So stop with this thing that Social Security is not going to be there or they're going to reduce your benefit. It's insane. And it's just fear mongering. It's simply, now it might be for people who are 40 today. A, they're not on it. B, they're a smaller population of the overall voting mass. 62.5 million people. And the people who are in the senior citizens vote en masse more so than people who are in the 30s and 40s. It's just not going to happen. So stop. All right. And I just hear this all the time. They're going to cut your Social Security benefits. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So keeping this important statistic in mind, there's perhaps no more anticipated event each year than the mid-October cost of living adjustment announcements from the SSA, Social Security Administration. The cost of living adjustment takes into account the rising cost of goods and services and determines what sort of raise beneficiaries will receive in the upcoming year. And while there's still a good 2.5 months yet, because this was done in July, we have some knowledge of what the COLA is going to be. And signs are pointing to beneficiaries receiving their highest cost of living adjustment since 2012. So that's good. Here's how Social Security calculates its cost of living. Now, we talked about this in the last episode, too. They look at it right here, the urban wage earner CPI. So it's basically it's literally the consumer price index for urban wage earners and clerical workers, CPI-W. And that average during the third quarter of the previous year acts like a baseline number. So the average reading of CPI/W for the previous quarters, July through September, acts as a baseline. And while the average reading during the third quarter of the current year is a comparison, if the cost of goods and services measured by the CPI-W has risen on a year-over-year average, the percentage increase rounding to the next 0.1% is passed on to beneficiaries. All right, so that's a lot to chomp on there. The drawback with CPI/W is that might be for clerical workers or urban wage earners, but you are no longer a clerical or urban worker because you are retired. And so the cost of dry cleaning, for instance, which may or may not be part of this, I don't know, is the cost of their commuting, things of that nature, which may or may not be part of this, I don't know. But for a worker and a retiree, two completely different measures on what real Social Security or inflation should be. We talked about this the other day with heating oil and propane, and the other one, too, Medicare expenses. And my goodness, health costs. All that is not included in CPI/W. So is deficient for what real retirees are going through when it comes to their cost of living adjustments. Conversely, if prices fall from one year to the next, as they did in 2010, 11, and 16, no COLA is passed along and benefits remain static from one year to the next, which is odd because if no COLA is passed along, does that mean that there's no increase in the cost of your health insurance? I don't think so, right? So certainly the cost of your Medicare is going up even if the Social Security doesn't have a COLA. Now, there are things called hold harmless provisions. I get all that. But at the end of the day, on your premiums from Part B and then your co-pays and the cost of insurance and your co-insurance and all that, that is still increasing even if your premiums do not for your Medicare Part B. Never mind, what your Medicare Advantage may be or Medigap policies as well. So there's definitely a broken following there in terms of the real inflation retirees face as opposed to the inflation that an employee has as an earner. Okay, and it's just all the way around that. So that's why the value of $1 for purchasing power in 2000. You got $1 in Social Security, you could buy $1 worth of goods. You can only buy 66 cents worth of goods today because the cost of living adjustments for Social Security recipients has not kept up with real inflation. You might be then wondering what actually factors into the inflation, though there are plenty of subcategories. There are 8 primary spending categories. So we do have medical care, and that's good, recreation. But remember, medical care, even though it was in here, the cost of living did not happen in 2010 and 11, even though we know for a fact medical care did increase. Apparel, okay, well, retirees, are they buying a whole lot more clothes? Probably not. Housing, food and beverages, recreation, that would be something. Education and communication. Are you really education and communication really frontline for you as a retiree? Probably not. Other goods and services, who knows what that would be. So I like what they say. The rising cost of food, medical care, gasoline, housing, and much more should be counted by the CPI/W and pass along to inflation matching raised to beneficiaries in the following year. It should be. But again, it wasn't in 2010, 11, and 16, even though this thing right here, medical care, certainly did not drop in cost. It certainly went up for sure. All right, so let's keep reading. This is why things are looking up for Social Security recipients in 2019. What should have existing beneficiaries somewhat excited about the upcoming COLA announcement is that the CPI/W has been steadily climbing over the recent months. After logging a 3% change over the trailing 12 months as of May, according to the BLS, the CPI-W jumped 3.1% on a year-to-year basis over June. So given May and June being 3%, that's where their fool is saying this could be a pretty good year for COLA adjustments for Social Security. Similar increases were witnessed by Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers, or CPI-U, which is a little bit more broad, which measures many of the same spending categories that CPI-W has had, an unadjusted 12-month inflation rate, including increase in 5 consecutive months from 2.1 in 2018 to 2.9 to 2019, from January 2.1% in January 2018 to 2.9% in June 2019. So that's a significant increase. According to the BLS, the bulk of this inflationary increase is a result of higher energy commodity prices. And again, that was another thing that was hurting seniors in previous years, that they weren't getting the boost for the cost of the utilities, the propane and natural gas. And that was going up, even though CPI/W didn't reflect it nearly to the extent that you real world felt it in your Social Security check. Higher crude prices that lead to more expensive prices at the pump and for fuel oil, exactly, as well as higher shelter expenses. In fact, a few subcategories have seen a year-over-year decline in prices: auto sales, airline fares, and TVs and whatnot. Relative to the CPI-U, energy commodities comprise 4.69 in the index, and they're up 24% on an unadjusted 12-month basis, while shelter expenses, which are up 3.4%, comprise a hefty 30, basically a third. So that's the issue there. According to CPI-U, only less than 5% is going to commodity prices for energy. And I bet you are probably using more than 5% of your income going to energy. I don't know that for a fact, but it would not shock me in the least. And yet housing represents a third of the weighting. So let's just think about it like this. They don't say how much healthcare costs, but I imagine healthcare is probably 10%. Energy is probably 10%, and then housing is 33% roughly, and that's over half right there. And I don't know those numbers for sure, but in real world thinking, I bet you're spending a third of your income on housing, a tenth of your income on energy, and a tenth of your income on healthcare. That would not shock me in the least. Long story short, inflation has been trending up all year thanks to higher crude prices and rental inflation. If you own your home, that doesn't matter so much, but it does matter for property taxes. Exactly right. That's another issue that was hurting that dollar from 2000 to 60 cents purchasing power today was not just crude oil, medical insurance, but medical care, but also and energy prices, but also property taxes. Property taxes are going up much, much higher than the rate of CPI-W. And yet you got to pay it. There's no other way around that. The bodes well for continuation of the pattern into July, August, September, which will give us a 3 months to determine the Social Security's COLA for the upcoming year. My best guess, assuming we have moderate hurricane season, and by the way, they're forecasting a lower than normal hurricane season this summer, as the national NOAA, NOAA, that's a national, I can't remember what it's called, but hey, those are the guys who forecasted the hurricanes are saying it's probably going to be lower this year. So moderate to low hurricane season and modest refining disruption in the Gulf down there in Louisiana and Texas. COLA should come in around 3.2 to 3.3%, which would represent a 7-year high. So that's good news. Unfortunately, even the biggest raise in 7 years isn't something for seniors to necessarily celebrate. According to analysts, we talked about this. Social Security's purchasing power has declined by a whopping 34% since 2000. Put in another context, what seniors were able to buy with $100 worth of Social Security income in 2000 only purchase $66 worth of goods now. And again, we talked about that because of CPI-W itself and how it's deficient in some areas for retirees and analyzing other areas for retirees that just aren't attributed to them. Again, going back to apparel, going back to like if you do dry cleaning and whatnot. So anyway, that could be good news. I'll link to the article here, but good news for Social Security is it looks like we should get a pretty good increase in cost of living adjustments for Social Security beneficiaries. I hope that's the case because we've been lacking. And again, I'm not on Social Security, but clients are. They are, and they're lacking on their Social Security increase, and this would be good. So I hope we get a 3%, which would be the highest increase in 7 years. So if you like what you see, as always, don't forget to subscribe down below. Comments are always welcome. Comment, and a thumbs up, always welcome too. Thumbs up, so don't forget the thumbs up. Go to the blog at heritagewealthplanning.com. Love to see you there, and you'll get the pop-up where you can buy my new book. Or for free. I don't have my other copy. I changed the cover. No, this is it. So you can get my book for free as a PDF file. I'm not going to send you this because it costs like $5 to put in the mail and another $3 to print. But you can get the PDF for free as well. If you go to heritagewealthplanning.com, there should be a pop-up, and you can fill out your name and info in the pop-up, just your name, email, and your state. And then you can download this right then and there. So see you next time on the Heritage Wealth Planning YouTube channel. Thanks, guys.